welcome to CrimeDivers. I'm Laura.
And I'm Joe.
And welcome to today's episode.
Hello everybody, welcome back.
So, Jill?
So,
Well.
we're in the USA.
Uh-huh.
And I'll tell you, I'm just going to tell you and everybody now that this is going to be more than one part.
Oh, a long one.
I actually went diving. I'm a crime diver, and I actually went diving.
You went deep diving?
I went deep diving. So I went deep diving into this one. I have heard this case before, and I knew there was quite a lot of information to it. I didn't realise how much. Mm-hmm. So once I started writing, I was like, oh, okay, this is taking a while. Uh-huh. So far, because I haven't finished it yet.
Okay.
So far, I've written 2 parts.
Okay.
So, I don't know how many parts it's going to be though.
So let's just say it's a little series.
Yeah, it's a mini series. So, and I do apologise though, because I know that myself, when I'm listening to a podcast, I actually don't like multi-parters unless they're like one after the other. Like if they're doing one episode a week, that annoys me. So I totally understand if you don't want to listen to it yet, you maybe want to wait until it's finished.
Yeah, until the other parts are out.
Yeah, so what I'll do is in the title, I'll put in which part it is, and I'll put in the final. I'll say that it's the final part when we get there, so you can just look at the episodes, see when they're all out, and then you can listen to it if that's the way you want to do it.
Like the suspense, like me, clearly not. It has to wait until like you've actually finished writing them.
Yeah.
So I'll have to not know the answers or know the conclusion for a while. Then keep on listening.
Laura doesn't have a choice on the matter. She's gonna have to wait.
No.
Okay, so.
The title is?
Yeah, we're not. There's no point in going on anymore about it. So we're going to be talking about the life and crimes of Shelly Knotek.
Okay.
Okay, so do you want to dive in?
Well, we're going to have to. So
we're going. Get your snork on.
Yeah.
We're going deep diving.
We're going deep diving.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Michelle Lynn Watson, later known as Shelly Knotek, was born on the 15th of April 1954 in Washington. She lived with her 2 younger brothers, Chuck and Paul, and her mum Sharon. She was an alcoholic and she suffered with mental illness. She herself had came from a dysfunctional family. Her mum had been married 7 times.
Oh, wow.
That's
a lot.
And as a mother to Shelley and her brother, she was neglectful. She had numerous boyfriends. Some of them were abusive, and the children most likely saw at least some of the abuse.
Yeah.
So Shelley's dad was called Les. He owned a bowling alley. And in 1958, a woman called Lara started working there. But what I noticed was, in some sources, she's called Laura. And in the book that I read, there's a book called If You Tell, which is where I got a lot of information from. She's called Lara in the book.
Right.
So I'm not sure if it's a mistake or if she wanted to go by a different name or whatever. So I'm just going to go with what's in the book.
Yeah.
So her name is Lara.
Yeah, okay.
She was 10 years younger than him, although he lied and told her that he was only 4 years older than her. And she fell for what he had going for him rather than actually falling for him. Yeah, like, because she later said he wasn't a very nice person. But as well as the bowling alley, Les and his mum owned a couple of nursing homes.
Right.
And he was well known in town. He had been a high school track and football star. He was quick-witted. He could pour on the charm, so all the girls thought he was a catch. So Lara sort of said that she fell for that, you know.
Right. Yeah.
He was a catch.
Yeah.
So they started dating, and 2 years later they got married.
Right.
So the day after the wedding, the phone rang. Lara answered it, and it was Sharon, Les's first wife. And she asked, "When are you coming to get these damn kids?" And Lara was like,
"What?
What the fuck?" Like, apparently, Les had agreed to raise the kids once he got married. He was going to raise the kids because Sharon said that she couldn't cope anymore. But he hadn't bothered to tell Lara that. So although she knew that he had children, she didn't know that she was going to be bringing them up. She probably just thought she would be
like a part-time.
A bonus mum, you know, like at the weekends and holidays and stuff, like normal step-parents.
Yes, of course.
I say normal step-parents, but you know, in the usual situation. She didn't know that she was going to be bringing these children up. So she was like, well, you know, I've not really got a choice in the matter here. You know, I'm married now. This is my husband. These are his kids. They need, you know, a stable
home.
a home, so I'm gonna have to suck it up and just do it.
Right.
So they lived in a place called Battleground. In a way, quite appropriate actually. And two of the children moved in. So Shelley, who was 6, and Chuck, who was 3. Sharon had decided to keep the youngest, Paul, who was still just a baby.
Right, okay.
So Shelley, she straight away told Lara, her stepmom, that she didn't like her. And she went on to tell her every day that she hated her.
Oh, okay.
So Chuck, however, didn't speak a word. Like, Shelley did all the talking for them both, and it seemed like she controlled Chuck.
Right.
So once the kids had moved in with their dad, they never heard from their mother again, for Sharon. She never phoned them, she never visited them, she never even sent them like birthday cards or Christmas cards. Shelley never mentioned her mum, and it was like she had never existed.
Wow. And I guess they didn't see their younger brother either.
Not yet.
Oh, right. Okay.
Sharon's family said that she had gotten caught up in a dangerous lifestyle, and they thought that she may have turned to sex work to support her and Paul. In 1967, when Shelley was 13, so she's been living from when she was 6, so what's that, 7 years later?
Yeah.
Les got a call from the sheriff's department in LA, and a detective told him that Sharon had been murdered in a hotel room.
Right.
And the coroner needed someone to identify the body and to go and pick up Paul. Les didn't want to take in Paul. His own son.
I was going to say, but that's his own
Fair
son.
enough, he hasn't seen him for 7 years, but, still your son. Because he knew that he had been displaying behavioural problems.
Okay.
So she must have kept in touch with him at least.
Yeah.
Like Sharon's kept in touch with Les, the dad, for him to know that.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Unless he's heard it from other family members or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But you knew.
It's not a thing.
Yeah.
But that's why he didn't want his own son. But Lara, I mean, luckily enough, Lara was a good person, and she was like, no, we have to take him. He's your son. It's the right thing to do. We took in your other two, so what's another one?
Exactly.
So they went to LA, and the police told him, quote, she was living with a Native American, but they were homeless, drunks, living on Skid Row. She was beaten to death. So I'm kind of wondering if it was like, because our family were saying that she had turned to sex work, she was in a hotel room, so has this been a client that's done it. So Sharon was cremated, and the ashes were sent to her mum, but she refused to take them, and no one held a memorial service for her. So our own family weren't even interested.
It's a bit sad.
Yeah.
No matter what she's done or isn't perfect, but I mean...
I don't know the extent to what...
Exactly. I mean, we don't know the ins and outs, do we? So.
Exactly. We don't know about her life. That's all we know is she had problems. She had addiction and all the rest of it. But, our family had obviously disowned her, didn't want anything to do with her. And when Shelley was told about what had happened to her mum, she just didn't seem interested. She had no reaction at all. So, Paul moved in. So, I don't know exactly how old he was, but he must have been maybe about 8 or 9, something like that. Or no, that was 7 years later, and he was only a baby. Maybe only about 7.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Lara had said, quote, he was wild. He was like an animal. He even carried a switchblade.
Oh, God.
And Les, he was busy with his businesses. You remember, he's got 2 nursing homes and a bowling alley, and he just didn't...
Care. He
just wasn't around. Yeah, he just... Work was more important. He didn't have time for the kids. So poor Lara was left to bring 3 of them up. Chuck, he still didn't talk unless Shelley put words into his mouth.
Right.
He was a loner, and Shelley, she would just pick fights. She had to get her own way all of the time. Nothing was ever good enough for her, and everything was just a big drama with her. Lara tried her best, but she struggled with these difficult children, and plus her and Les actually had 2 kids of their own by now as well.
Oh, wow.
So she's bringing up 5 children.
Jeez, oh.
3 of them are difficult.
I was going to say, I'm surprised that she wanted to do that, but I mean, she obviously wanted kids of her own.
Yeah.
So I do get it, but that must have been tough.
It's a lot for her to take on, having the 3 difficult kids and then having her own. Or although I don't know how old her kids were, so she could have had the kids before Paul came along, maybe. Yeah. So I don't know. But anyway, at some point she had 5 kids to look after. Shelley, she just got worse as time went by. She even started chopping up bits of glass, and she would put the shards of glass in her siblings' shoes, so they would put their shoes on and
cut their feet.
How to her siblings. Like, who does that to anybody?
I mean, I know siblings can like fight and not get on and stuff like that, but that's
Cruel.
Yeah,
that is.
I'm crossing the line.
It's a bully.
Yeah.
Shelley was really close to her paternal grandma, but she was awful, and Shelley was taken after her. The grandma, so this was Anna, Grandma Amma. Amma. Did I say Amma?
You said
Anna. Grandma Anna. She was a bully. For instance, there was 2 women who worked at one of the nursing homes, and she made them come and clean her house as well, and she basically made them into her slaves. She'd take them home, made them clean her house. She would stop them while they were in the middle of doing something. She'd be like, right, stop doing that. Go wash my hair for me. Come wash my feet. Who wants to wash anybody's feet? Come on.
Fucking queen.
And if they didn't do things quick enough or good enough for her, she would punch them, she'd kick them, she'd pull their hair. One time she even held one of their heads in the toilet and just kept flushing it.
Oh, for God's sake, that's
Yeah, she was awful.
That's terrible.
So Anna was married to George, and he was actually a nice man. Grandad George, he was fine. But he had to do whatever Anna told him to do, whatever his wife told him to do. And for more than 20 years, he slept in an 8-by-8 shed outside the back door.
Wow.
Because Anna wouldn't let him sleep inside the house. Why are you married to him then?
Well, exactly. Like,
if you don't want him sleeping in your house,
like, what's the point?
Exactly.
Why does he put up with that though? Why is he still there?
He's scared of her. Probably it's abuse, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, we know people in abusive relationships.
Yeah, true.
You know, can't
just leave.
Yeah, you can't. It's not a case of just upping and leaving, is it? You know.
I know.
So just before Shelley turned 15, she didn't come home from school one day. Lara eventually phoned the school, and she was told that Shelley had been taken to the Juvenile Hall Detention Centre in Vancouver, 11 miles away. And I'm just to point out that there's actually 2 Vancouvers. There's a Vancouver in Canada.
Yes.
Which this is not it. Because when I first wrote this, I wrote, which was in Vancouver, and I looked up, I actually Googled how far away is Vancouver from Washington, and I'm sure it was something like 4 hours or something like that, 4.5 hours. And I'm like, why the hell is she in a detention centre all the way up there? And it wasn't until I actually got later on in the case that I realised that there is actually a place called Vancouver in Washington.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that either.
I immediately thought the Canadian Vancouver.
I did, so I had to go back and change it. So it was actually only 11 miles away, so
right.
It was close. So Lara was gobsmacked when she hadn't been told this. Like,
I was going to say, why have the school not informed her?
Yeah. And of course she was like, well, what the hell's going on? Why is she in a juvenile hall, detention centre? And the person that she spoke to had said it was for her own safety, like for her own good. It was for Shelley's protection or something along those lines. And all she said was, this person on the other end of the phone said, Shelley had told a counsellor at school that something was going on at home and she couldn't handle it anymore. The woman on the phone said she couldn't say anything more than that, and she hung up on her. So she's like, what?
Like, hello, I'm like her parent?
Yeah.
Like, her guardian, whatever, like, why I'm entitled to know?
So Lara immediately called Les, and he came home, and they phoned the school again, and the detention centre, and even the school principal at home, but nobody would tell them anything. So they were like, right, get in the car, we're going to the detention centre. Which again, when I thought this was 4 hours away, I was like, wow, they're having to drive for 4 hours.
Yeah, it was only 11 miles.
No, it was only 11 miles. So they drove to the detention centre and asked to see their daughter straight away. But they weren't allowed to see her because Shelley had accused Les of raping her.
Oh, right, okay.
But I still didn't get that, like, so this is why they thought they didn't have to tell the parents, but I'm like, but it doesn't matter, they're still her parents, so no matter what she's accusing them of, they've still got a right to know where their daughter is.
Well, exactly, because obviously they're going to be concerned about her not coming home from school, why she did end up phoning in the first place.
And
so.
if it's not true, then obviously they need to know, but even if it was true, they should still know that actually something has been done about it now. You know, so this is where your daughter is. Your daughter's been taken off you because this is happening.
Well, exactly.
So they were absolutely horrified. And Les told them, like, she was like, I am phoning our doctor and I want her examined. I need to prove that I haven't done this.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, Les and Lara went home, and Lara went into Shelley's room, and she kind of had a look at. She's like, I don't know what I was looking for, but I was just having a look about to see if I could
see anything.
Yeah. And she looked under the mattress and she found a magazine. This magazine is called True Confessions, and the headline on the front page was, I was raped at 15 by my dad.
Right, okay.
Sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
So she was like, this must be an inspiration for making up this horrible story.
Yeah.
So they went to the hospital when they'd obviously got the doctor, and Shelley was being examined, and they took along this thing, and they're like, look, I know this doesn't prove it, but
Found under
you know, yeah. But anyway, the doctor examined Shelley and then came out and said, no, she hasn't been raped. She's still a virgin. So there was no bruising on her. There was no evidence whatsoever to back up her claim. So, you know, she hadn't even voluntarily had sex. She was still a virgin.
Yeah.
So there was no way she'd been raped.
No.
And he told them that Shelley needed a psychologist. So they all went home and they started family therapy, and Shelley had private sessions, but she never ever admitted that she made up that story of her dad raping her, and she wouldn't entertain the idea that she had problems that needed sorted. She was like, no, there's nothing wrong with me.
I don't even know her, but from what you've told me about her so far, I think she does.
Yeah, no, nothing was ever her fault. She wasn't the problem. It was everyone around her, you know. Like, she didn't have problems. She didn't need fixing. So her school wouldn't have her back because they said, quote, the principal said, we don't want you in class here, we just don't want any trouble. So her parents tried to get her in a boarding school, but they'd obviously phoned a high school to get her records, and then they were like, no, she's not welcome here, you know, she's just making up things like that. No. So eventually they found a school that would take her, but it was in a place called Hoodsport, which was over an hour away. So Lara's parents said they obviously lived there or near there, and they said that Shelley could live with them. Sure, they regretted that because she was awful. She would like offer to help wash the dishes, but then she would put everything in the bin, like all the dishes, the utensils, the pots, the pans, and I'm like, well, why are you offering then?
Duh.
And she was unpredictable. She had a mean streak, and Lara's parents just walked on eggshells round her. Shelley said that she loved kids, so she's like, you know, offered to babysit the neighbours' kids for free. But when the parents came home, they like found their kids in bed with their clothes on, and Shelley had barricaded them into the rooms with like heavy furniture. So you know that wasn't great.
No, definitely not.
She didn't get invited back.
I bet not.
Lara didn't find out till later. Yeah, they didn't actually. Start again. Lara didn't find out till later, but her parents were so relieved when school finished because they could get rid of Shelley. They were like, well, bye, see ya.
See you later.
Our parents hadn't told her, but Shelley had told neighbours that Lara's dad was abusing her. And they immediately, you know, the neighbours had immediately told Lara's mum, but again, Shelley was just telling lies, you know. She wasn't. Oh, he wasn't, should I say. Her parents refused to have Shelley back for the next school term. They're like, no,
to be honest.
No, they're, you know, we've done our duty.
Yeah,
not our problem.
Yeah.
So eventually, after lots of phone calls, Lara managed to get her into St Mary of the Valley School, which was a boarding school about 40 minutes away, and it was run by nuns.
Right.
So Lara and Les hoped that the no nonsense nuns would like put a stop to Shelley's bullshit behaviour. After a few weeks, the nuns started calling Lara, asking if they would come and take Shelley away at the weekends, because they were obviously just leaving her there.
They need a break.
They were like, it's 40 minutes away, but nah, you can still stay at the weekends, we're having fun with it, yeah. And then the nuns are like, nah.
Please come and take her.
Yeah, you're going to have to take her at the weekends. We'll have her during the week so she can do her schoolwork and that. Come and get her at the weekends. And they said, right, and she can stay this term, but next term, we're not wanting her back. She's got behavioural problems. Right. She would put broken glass into classmates' shoes. She would destroy other girls' homework, and she would steal like people's stuff and all that. So, you know, that was that with them. But even the nuns were like, nah, we not having her. So Les, he had a sister called Katie. So that was Shelley's Auntie Katie. And she lived in Pennsylvania. And she offered to take Shelley in for the summer. Shelley had played the pity card, like, my mum was murdered, my dad's abusive, my stepmom is mean to me, so Auntie Katie, you know,
please help me.
Yeah. So Katie felt sorry for her. She didn't know the real Shelley. Yeah. So she's like, of course you can. You can come and stay with us for the summer, you know, we'll have some fun, we'll have some, you know. So a few weeks into her stay, Katie called Lara and said Shelly had told her everything, you know, about the abuse and, you know, how mean you are to her and all this. So, her and her husband Frank, they decided to have that poor girl stay with them for the school year. So Lara was like, yes, take her, no problem. I don't care what she's accusing me of. You can have her.
Definitely.
So obviously that was a bad decision, and Shelley was actually that bad that she tore Katie and Frank apart, and they ended up getting divorced. So she must have been an absolute nightmare.
She sounds like it.
So after graduating high school, Shelley moved back home. And she started working in one of her dad's nursing homes. So when she'd been living with Katie and Frank, she'd had a boyfriend called Randy, but they'd gone their separate ways, you know, once school had finished. She'd moved home, and he had stayed in Pennsylvania to work and save money for college. But after a while, Shelley missed Randy so much, so she called him, and she asked him to come to Battleground, and he could work as a maintenance man for her dad. And Randy was like, oh, you know, I don't know, like, it's not much money. But Shelley was like, well, my dad's going to put you up in a rent-free apartment, so you better save for college quicker that way, because you're working, not having to pay your rent. So he was like, great, I'm coming. So he agreed, and before he'd even got his foot in the door of their new apartment, Shelley's family were basically arranging their wedding. Randy was like, why is her dad so keen to pass his daughter off? I mean, they were only 19. Plenty of time to get married, but the family were pretty pushy, so he was just like, you know, whatever. Right, okay, just let them do whatever they want. And they got married. None of Randy's family turned up to the wedding.
Right.
But later, someone realised that was because Shelley hadn't sent them invitations.
Oh, so they didn't even know.
So they didn't even know. That poor guy must have been like, oh my God, my
family.
I don't know why I didn't speak to them.
I know,
but
say why didn't I sort of say to them all, well, you know, wedding soon and all that.
Yeah, but no, she hadn't even sent them invitations. So after their honeymoon, Randy and Shelley moved into a 40-foot trailer owned by her family. So it was rent-free, but it wasn't good enough for Shelley. She constantly complained that it was shabby. She started taking time off work because of what she called, quote, her troubles. Basically, she had a period. She said that she had severe menstrual cramping that lasted pretty much all month, and eventually her dad sacked her.
Not surprised.
She went on to work at another relative's nursing home, but she did the same thing and got sacked from there as well. So now she had no job. So you'd think she would maybe work on cleaning up the trailer a bit, you know, a rent-free trailer. She would maybe make it a bit less shabby.
Yeah.
But she did nothing. She didn't cook, she didn't clean, she just lay on the couch all day moaning to whoever would listen that she deserved better.
Well,
so
really deserve that at the minute.
As we already know by now, Shelley was an ungrateful bitch. She decided she wanted a car, and she went straight to Daddy to get her to buy one. I mean, her family were scared of her. I mean, her dad basically did treat her like a princess. Not because of, oh my God, she's such a wonderful child, but because he was scared of her and didn't know what she would do.
And he'd rather keep her sweet, basically.
Exactly. I mean, at 14, 15-year-old, even just accusing him of rape, I mean, that could have destroyed him. That could have, you know, so if she can do that at that age, what could she do later on? I think
he was just trying to do everything she wanted so that she wouldn't do anything bad to him, basically.
Exactly. So, you know, reluctantly, Les agreed to go to Vancouver and again, I thought he'd driven all the way to Canada. No, he drove the 11 miles to Vancouver to get her and he got her she demanded that she wanted a Volkswagen Beetle. Right. That's what she wanted, so it was, so away he went, and he came back with what he thought was better than a Beetle. He was like, do you know what, actually, this car's better, so I'm going to get her this. So he got her a nearly new pink Buick convertible. The poor guy thought that he'd done a really great thing for his daughter, but she threw an absolute fit. And she screamed at him that he had bought her a horrible old maid's car. I have no idea what a Buick convertible looks like, but I'm thinking, a pink Buick convertible, that doesn't sound like an old maid's car to me.
No, it doesn't sound like an old maid's car.
An old maid's car to me would be something
like
not convertible.
Like a Beetle.
I like Beetles, but just, you know, maybe something small, maybe something like brown. You know, like, like not pink and...
No, I wouldn't describe it as that.
Anyway, so she was so mad about him getting her this car that she faked an overdose. She apparently collapsed in a stupor that night from alcohol and sleeping pills. Like, Randy couldn't wake her up, so he was, like, panicking. He called her dad, and they rushed her to the hospital thinking she was going to die. She was fine. She'd only taken a very small amount of aspirin with a little bit of alcohol. So that was obviously just to teach her dad a lesson for not getting her the right car.
Oh dear, that's not good.
No. So one day, Randy came home and he found the trailer completely trashed, and Shelly had blood and scratches on her face. And he asked her what happened, and she was like, a man came in and he beat her and he raped her.
No, he didn't. I just don't believe it.
Yeah, I think we've learned not to believe anything this woman says. She said that he had grabbed Randy's rifle and ran out. Randy called Les and the sheriff, and after the sheriff had talked to Shelly, he told Randy and Les, they were like, no, those wounds have been self-inflicted. There's been no intruder. Mm-hmm. But after the sheriff left, Shelly said, I have been raped, and the sheriff forced me to change my story and say that I've made it up.
Right.
She was like, I can prove it. I can prove that I was not lying, because she saw, like as she said, the intruder took Randy's rifle and buried it, and she saw where he buried it. So
why would he take it and then bury it in front of her? I mean, what the feck is the point in that?
So they went. So she took him to where the rifle was, and look, I am proving that there was an intruder, and he raped me, and he ran off with.
No, dear, you took it yourself and you buried it yourself. I mean, come on. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
I know, but by now Shelley's parents and Randy knew better than to believe her. They knew that she was just making up this story because she didn't want to live in the trailer anymore, because she was like, it's too dangerous for me to live here, and she wanted to live in a house in town, so. Right. She made up that story so that she would get a house. And of course that's what she got. So she also didn't bother to pay for stuff at the shops. Like, she would write checks and they would bounce. So then the owners would like track Randy down and be like, right, your wife's she's ran up this debt, so here. So it didn't take him, he had to pay it, so it didn't take him long to realise why Les had been so keen to get his daughter married off.
Yeah.
So in 1974, Shelley announced that she was pregnant. Randy's parents, that was true by the way, yeah. just in case you wondered if there was something being made up again, as you know, because she makes everyone else up. She was pregnant. So Randy's parents went, they were excited, and they were going to make the trip from Pennsylvania to come and bring some baby gifts, but Shelley didn't want them to come. But Randy, he put his foot down and was like, no, this is my family, this is my baby. They are quite welcome to come and bring some gifts if they want to. They're entitled to be excited. And they're coming whether you like it or not. So when they arrived, Shelley just went and shut herself in the bedroom and never once came out while Randy's family were there.
Lovely.
Once they had left, Randy was looking for books that his brother had bought for the new baby, and he couldn't find them. He asked Shelley if she'd seen them. She's like, nah, couldn't find them anywhere, so she must have just got rid of them. Randy's granddad had sent some candy, and he made this candy all the time, and all the family loved this candy. So he was like, oh, I want a piece of that. And it tasted of nothing but salt. So he called his grandfather, and he's like, what happened there, I've got a bad batch. But his grandfather couldn't understand it. Others had eaten some of the same batch, and it had been fine, so she's obviously done something to that candy. Randy's sister, she had accidentally left some new clothes behind, so she must have been shopping while she'd been there. She'd left the clothes behind. So Shelley, she was like, right, well, no problem, I'll pack them up, I'll send them back to you. But when the package, when the package got to Randy's sister, the outer packaging was perfect, but the clothes inside had been cut up. Shelley was like, somebody at the post office must have done it. But it was all wrapped up on the outside, so the post office wouldn't.
No, it was you.
Of course it was.
Of course it was. Why would you do that?
Because this woman is
mentally unstable.
Yeah, that is actually. I was trying to think of a polite way of putting it.
Yeah.
Well done. So Shelley gave birth to a daughter, Nikki, in February 1975, but she didn't go home to her and Randy's house. She and Randy took Nikki to her parents' house in Vancouver. Lara thought that Shelley was probably just nervous about being a first-time mum and just needed some help for a few days, but they actually ended up staying for 3 months. So I think she just wanted Lara to basically
look after the baby.
Yeah, exactly. But Randy eventually put his foot down and he was like, right, we're going home. Lara drove every day to see Nikki because she just didn't trust Shelley, and neither did Randy. She would spend all Randy's money, and not on things that they needed either. You know, it wasn't like it was on food or bills or household stuff. Like, she was just randomly spending money on whatever she felt like. And she was only nice to Randy when other people were around. When when there was nobody else there, she would lock him out of the house at night time. He started sleeping in his car, and Shelley would demand his paycheck every Friday. But then she wasn't happy with him just handing his paycheck over. She complained to her dad, because I can hear somebody snoring. Can you hear that snoring?
Yeah.
That's not the child, it must be the dog. Sorry everybody, we have a child lying next to us she does have her headphones on, she's watching something on her iPad, so she can't hear us, and the dog is cuddled into her, they're both lying next to me on the bed. I was just checking to see which one is asleep. It's the dog.
It's the dog.
The dog, yeah. You're supposed to poke the dog when she starts snoring. I just got a nod. She probably won't be able to hear her if she's snoring, she can't hear us.
No.
Right. Yeah, so she wasn't happy with Randy just handing the paycheck over. She wanted the paycheck handed to her. So as her dad was the one who employed Randy, she complained to him, and she changed it so that Randy's checks came straight to her. And Randy actually said later that this was to make sure that he went home. He would have to go home. If he wanted money, he would have to go home. Otherwise, if he was getting his own checks, he could just go and leave her, couldn't he? You know, he could move out. But because she was getting his money, he had to come home. So Randy decided at some point, right, I've had enough.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I'm surprised it stayed this long.
Exactly.
But...
I mean, it was probably because of the child, you know, because of Nikki. And he didn't have any money, so he asked his parents for the airfare to fly home. And of course, so they'd done that. He went home, and of course he missed his daughter Nikki. So when Shelley called him 2 weeks later saying that she wanted to repair the marriage, he was like, right, okay, come here, and she went and stayed with his family. But apparently Shelley was just her usual vile self, and Randy's family were disgusted by her behaviour, and after just 2 weeks he decided enough was enough and filed for divorce. So 2 weeks of her being there and living with the family, it was like, no, get rid of her.
Aye, see you later.
Aye. So once he filed for divorce, she was like, well, fuck you then. And she just started buying anything and everything in sight so that Randy would have to pay for them, and she got him further and further into debt, but she didn't care. That was his own fault for leaving her. So she's
a right piece of work.
I know, she's lovely. Then suddenly Shelley just disappeared. Like, Lara was phoning her, she was going to her house. I'm not sure where she was living at this point, but eventually a relative called Lara and told her that she better come and get Nikki, the baby, because she had been looking after her.
Oh, right.
They told Lara that Shelley had gone and they didn't know where she was or when she was coming back, so she's obviously just went and dumped Nikki on this relative and buggered off. So Lara picked Nikki up and took her home with her, and she looked after her for nearly a year before Shelley decided to turn up and get her daughter.
I would have said, no, you're not having her back.
Well, she didn't even tell Lara where she'd been. She just appeared, took Nikki, and then left again.
Oh, no.
And when Nikki was old enough to ask where her dad was, Shelley told her that her dad had abandoned her and that her paternal grandparents didn't love her. But she did it she didn't do that in a nasty way. She did that in a it's you and me against the world kind of way. You know, I'm your mum, I'm here, I'll look after you, I'll do anything for you. So obviously Nikki thought the world of her mum. What a wonderful person. You know, my dad's family don't want me, so she stepped up.
Yeah. Awful.
But this wasn't true. Over the years, Randy and his family had been writing to Nikki every Christmas, birthdays. They were sending cards and presents to her. But what Nikki found out many years later was that Shelley would take the tags off the gifts and put her own name on them. So Nikki was getting all these presents for Christmas and her birthdays. But she thought they were for her mum, not realising it was from her dad's and her grandparents.
That's awful.
I mean, and I'm assuming they probably they must have tried to see her as well, but you know, she obviously wasn't letting them or whatever. But yeah, I mean, they were at least sending stuff for her, but she didn't know that. How awful is that?
That is terrible.
So, Shelley met a guy called Danny, and they moved into a house in Battleground that her grandma Anna had left her when she died. And this was the favourite grandchild, should I say.
Oh, yeah, so she as well.
Yeah, she got the house. And Shelley and Danny got married in June 1978 when she was pregnant with their child.
Right.
So their daughter Samantha, who later went as Sammy, was born in August 1978. Danny was good to the girls, but he stood up to Shelley more than she was used to. So, of course, she didn't like that, so their marriage was pretty turbulent. They would have a fight, and Danny would leave the house to go and cool off, and Shelley would, like, grab the kids, put them in the car, and drive around looking for them. So I'm sure that would have made things worse. Like, let them just go and cool off and calm down.
Yeah, and come back.
And then come back and sort things out. But no, she would be like, that's not happening. You're not walking away from me. Right, kids, you're going to see this as well. And we're going to drive round until we find him and drag him back home. Absolute Looney Tune. So they split up after 5 years. I mean, 5 years is quite impressive for him. So once they'd split up, Shelley would date other men. But when she had a boyfriend, she would tell Nicky that she had to call him Dad. Like, just a new boyfriend would come along. I mean, I never said anything about Sammy, but I'm not sure. But from what I read, it was Nicky anyway. But Nicky did think of Danny as her dad.
Right,
you know, because he'd been around for 5 years. So she'd looked at him as... But every boyfriend that came along, it was like, that's your new dad, basically. And they must have moved around a bit. And, like, when Nicky started a new school, Shelley would enrol her with the surname of whatever man she was dating at the time. So she could have a new boyfriend and she'd be like, yeah, this is Nicky Smith. You know, like, just keep Shelley's surname, you know.
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't need to keep chopping and changing the poor
girl's her name was, her maiden name was Watson, so, like, just call her Nicky Watson. What's wrong with that?
Exactly.
Don't keep changing it.
No, that's awful.
So in 1982, Shelley met Dave Knotek. Do you recognise that name?
Oh, she was known as Shelly
Knotek, yeah. He was a shy man. He saw Shelley in a bar and thought that she was the most beautiful woman that he had ever seen.
Oh God, looks can be deceiving.
Definitely. And that she would be way out of his league. He was trying to pluck up the courage to go and talk to her, but she ended up actually coming over to him and he couldn't believe his luck. Like, they danced and he asked for her number and couldn't believe that she actually gave him her number.
Yeah.
He was too nervous to call her, though, and hoped that he would, like, maybe see her at the bar again, but the bar actually burned down the night after they met.
Oh, right.
You should have took that as a sign.
I was going to say, yeah, that's a definite sign.
So if he wanted to see her again, he would have to call her. So he finally put on his big boy pants and he called her and they started dating. So he fell hard for Shelley and she needed someone to support her. You know, she didn't fall for him. She just needed somebody to support her. She didn't have the money to pay debts and she was going to lose her house. So she took him home to meet her daughters and told them that this is your new daddy. For God's sake.
That's awful.
I know. So Dave loved Nicky and Sammy as well, and he would do anything for them. He was good to them, and he did try to help Shelley keep her house, but she lost it anyway.
Right.
One day after a doctor's appointment, Shelley told Dave that she had cancer. Yes,
Did she though?
I can tell by the look on your face you don't believe her.
No.
She said that she had cancer, she wouldn't live to see 30, and he said that he loved the girls so much and they needed a dad, especially after Shelley died, they would need a dad. So he asked her to marry him. So they got married in 1987 and they moved to Raymond, 125 miles away, which actually I think is where he was from.
Right.
So Shelley asked her friend Kathy Loreno to be a witness at the wedding. Kathy, sorry, that was a mixture between Kathy and Shelley there. Kathy was her hairdresser and her best friend. And unfortunately, Kathy is going to be a big part of this case, but we'll come back to her soon.
Okay.
And I'm going to leave it there for part 1.
Well,
Okay.
that's annoying.
oh, you're annoyed, are you? I told Laura that it was going to be more than one parter, and she said, oh, so I'm going to have to sit through like boring stuff before we get to anything interesting. That's what you said. Have you been bored so far?
No, it's actually very interesting.
It is very interesting.
Yes, it is.
And I think it's important for what's going to happen later. I just think
You need to know the whole story.
if the story is there to be known, then why shouldn't we tell it?
Well, exactly.
Oh, I did tell you it was a deep dive.
Yes.
So we will be back next week with part
two.
2. So, as I said, you know, I will label on each episode the number of each episode. So if you don't want to come back until we're finished, it will say which one is the final
But if you want to
episode.
join us next week, then
But-
we'll be back with part 2.
Yeah, we're back next week with part 2. So thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
Bye.